Hello, everybody. I'm back. I'm back, and I have a message for you guys from God. He's been wanting me to talk to you guys about forgiveness for whatever reason. I think it's very important at this moment with all the things that has been happening around, and a lot of people trying to heal, right? And a lot of people being somehow trapped in the past, or not knowing how to cope with their wounds, or how to forgive, right? Or let go of past hurt. So I've been feeling guided for days now to come and talk to you about forgiveness. Of course, always using my testimony or the things that I've been through, right? And how um, this process has been for me. So I'm gonna start by saying that not a long time ago I was coming back from work, um, in my Uber, right, in my taxi, and I started having a conversation with the driver, and somehow we start talking about my situation, his situation, how people lost loved ones, right, and how life change after an event like this, right, and how people can assume, right, stuff about others and react or work from that assumption, right, and do things to others, and you know to themselves as a consequence, of course. So that also bring me back the memory of how things were or had been, with all my situation, regarding my loved ones, my family, my relatives, my friends, co-workers, and even strangers, right? And one of the things that I was thinking the most is how people sometimes don't know your story, even close people that um, say they know you, right? They the closest to you and everything, and they think they know you. They think they know how you're gonna react, how you're gonna behave, or why you do or think in a certain way. But the reality is that they don't even know you at all, right? They just assume and start working, you know, behind the scenes or behind your back with that assumption. So I've been saying for a long time now how I know I've been, attacked, spiritually attacked by the closest people around me, not just strangers or co-workers or friends, so-called friends, but also by the closest people around me, right? And how I've been working behind the scenes on myself, how I took this journey instead of being a victim, right? And stay, depressed or with that mentality of poor me, everybody attack me and everybody's coming at me, and, falling for it must be true. I worth nothing, I don't deserve love, or, things like that. I decide to get up and heal myself and work on myself with my shadows and everything that I'm supposed to work, and just ignore whatever was happening outside of me, outside of myself. So I focus on myself, my journey, my healing, all the process, my awakening, all the things that I was doing, right? Hold on. Yes? What's up? My cat. Anyway, so yeah, I know a lot of you guys that have been following me remember more than 2 years ago when everything started, right? And I started my journey on my channel and all these things, how I was talking about how I broke up with my ex-fiance, right? In 3 months, I broke up with my ex-fiance, and my father and my brother, my older brother, died, right? And I was going through a lot of stuff during that year. It was very hard on me. How people turned their backs on me, including my kid, right? My oldest kid. And I mean, people talk shit about me, right? They've been making up stuff and exaggerating things that happened in the past, right? When I was toxic, when I didn't know better, when I was immature, when I was still in the matrix with that mentality of people pleasing and victim mentality, also blaming others for my problems and taking on others, because I wasn't doing right, mentally, emotionally, because all the stuff that I was going through, and the stuff that I already, went through, that I wasn't healed, you know. I wasn't healed yet. So, of course, when you're still in the matrix, you're not perfect. Nobody is. You do life like everybody does. How many people in one family, how many people have problems with their kids or their husband, or they're cheating, or you use disagreements because the way you think doesn't, match the way your kids think or what they want for themselves, and you try to guide them, right, as because sometimes we don't know better, right? We have to think about who guide us first, who raise us, and that's all that we know, right? Until we start really working on ourselves and finding better ways to raise kids, right? But for that, you need to heal first. If you're not a healed person, if you're not a balanced person, you're always going to have problems or issues because you don't know better. And that's the truth. So I'm not trying to justify myself. I never try to excuse myself. I am accountable of all my actions. And yes, I was very toxic. I was very detached when I was younger. When my kids start growing, my 2 kids, older kids more than anything. And with my marriage, that was super toxic and very, very, very out of place. So yeah, I was very detached. I was very strict. I was very you can say tyrant in some way, because the authority, I know how to manage that authority as a mother because I didn't know better, right? My parents, my mother more than anything, raised me with a lot of authority. She was the kind of, you do what I say or else, right? My father was more flexible. He was always letting us be. He was always guiding us and telling us the truth, how the real world was outside, right? But always keeping us grounded with the truth. But he was never a forceful person, at least not with me. I cannot speak about my brothers too much, because obviously I got married or whatever, and I moved out my home to do my own life, right? To follow my supposed to be the normal path of a human being, right? You get married and you move out from your house, and you left behind your relatives, right? Now your family is your husband, your kids, etc. So that's what I did, right? And I cannot say what else happened when I wasn't there, right? Because I was focused on myself and my own family. But I remember when we were young, we were all together still. My father was never forceful, and he will always guide us and let us be and let us take decisions. Even though a lot of times he didn't agree, a lot of times he felt disappointed maybe, and fucking fireworks. But anyway, he never was forceful of you do what I say, or else. He was worried if he, when like when I walk out from my home, and all the things, the times that I, didn't come back early at nighttime after a party or things like that. Obviously, he was worried, right? But even though he was very authoritative person, he was a boss. He raised me with love. He raised me with trust, trust in him, and he was not a tyrant. My mother was, but he wasn't. So of course, as I grew up and I became mother, the only mother figure I had was my own mom, right? My own mother, and my own mother was psychologically and emotionally abused, not just physically, but very abused, because she was also abused, right? She grew up in a home, in a situation where she had a lot of problems that she never healed, that still she haven't healed, right? So she was very, very abusive and detached from us, right? So that's exactly what I unconsciously, I guess, was the path that I was following, because I didn't know better. And again, I'm not trying to justify myself, I'm just speaking facts. That's what happened. We are the mirror of our own parents. We repeat cycles, we repeat patterns, and until and if only if we want to change, or we notice that we are doing something wrong, right? When things start failing, right? And you have no other option but to check yourself, and then change stuff around for the better, right? So yeah, I am never saying that I wasn't strict, or rigid when I was younger as a mother. I have a lot of flaws, problems, but most of my problems was because I wasn't healed, and I didn't have the support. And then when I came in this country, from that day to today, that is been 23 years, 23 years now living in this country. I have never had family or friends close to me, only my ex-husband and my kids is my only family to this day. Even though my ex-husband, we divorced, he's married again and all that, I could say, quote unquote, that he's still my family, because he's the only person that I know, right, that I came with from my country to here, and I know him since I was 17 years old. So he's the only person that I could say my family or relative, even though we are divorced and all that. And my kids, there's no one else that I have really here. So because of that, of course, my first years in this marriage and all these things, I had nobody to talk to. I had nobody to guide me. I was still young when I came here, 23 years old. And every time I have problems, I really have nobody to help me or to guide me. So I just react from whatever I knew, right? My personality, my character, my way of thinking, my own experiences as a daughter, and what I grow up seeing my relatives, interacting with their own kids, right? Because all that is a storage in our mind. The way you grow up and how you see others, treat others as you growing up, you mirror all that. There's no way that you cannot, you mirror your aunties, your uncles, your daddy, your mommy, your siblings, if they are older than you mirror all the family basically, and that's how you build your own family, right? Most of the people or everybody does it. Some people change down in the road, after some things. Some people never. Some people have the good luck to marry people that are very mature, and then they change for good. But not everybody has that opportunity, right? To do things good and right from the beginning in a marriage. Most of us repeat the cycles, repeat the same mistakes, repeat what we grow up, seeing around us. How to treat people, how to treat kids, how to raise kids, how to build a family, right? So that's what happened. Unfortunately, my family put me in a situation and a position where I ended up being the enemy, right? Everybody accused me to be somebody that I am not, exaggerating all the things or all my mistakes, without paying attention their own mistakes and what they did for me to react like I react, or without understanding the situation that was going on in my life, right? Always judging before seeing themselves in the mirror, right? Always putting everything on me, to the point that they're all getting together to come after me and blaming me for their own mistakes and their own irresponsibilities of not grow, healed, and move on. Okay? They still stuck in a certain mentality with certain way of thinking, and they still blame me for everything that happened to them, as whatever. And like I say, I went through a lot of shit, but I did grow or grew. I did change, evolve, and give myself another opportunity to be a better person. So I removed myself from all the people that was toxic, right? That didn't want to grow, that were close-minded and stuck in a certain mindset. I removed myself because in order for you to grow, you need to remove yourself. You need to isolate yourself from all this toxicity. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to listen your own voice, to listen God, Spirit, your team, spiritual team, and to actually review your life. You see, review your life and healed, by revisiting all your traumas and all your mistakes and all the things that went down, as time passed. So the only way that you can actually do all this is by you isolating yourself and removing yourself from all the people. So that way you can tell who is for you, who is not, and who are you. Because if you don't know yourself, you're gonna fall for everybody's opinions of you. And you're gonna allow that their opinions or perception of you change your perspective of yourself, to the point that you're gonna believe whatever they say about you, and you're also gonna accept whatever breadcrumbs they give you, right? Because you think that's what you deserve, right? Because they keep you in that mentality that you're not worthy of anything because you are shit, right? So I used to be very depressive because I felt like I wasn't a good person at some point. But it's because all the people pointing at me, all the people accusing me all the time, all the people judging me, all the people criticizing me, all the people having different opinions about me, and low-key being envious and jealous about me. Because when you are asleep, you cannot see yourself. You cannot see how magical you are, how beautiful you are, how smart you are, how valuable person you are, how much your worth is. You don't see that. You don't see it because you are asleep in the matrix, and all these people is been telling you who you are, or trying to tell you who you are, right? By criticizing you and pointing fingers, and bringing back stuff from the past to reminding you who you are, who they think you are, right? And you keep following and falling for these things until you wake up, until you say, okay, wait a minute, that's not me. That's the version that all these people been painted about me, but that's not me. So in order for you to understand all these things, you have to remove yourself. You have to isolate yourself. And it's the hardest thing to do, because most of the people is codependent of places, people, things, behaviors, and toxicity, including addictions, alcohol, overeating, overexpending money, overextending yourself, all these toxic traits that we have when we are unhealed and asleep. So after I understood and I find out everything that was going on regarding to the spiritual thing, the warfare, all the things that were happening, I understood that I needed to be by myself, and actually think through everything, from whatever my memory went back to when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, whatever age I was, right, that I could remember. And I start analyzing, revisiting, and healing every wound from that age, from whatever my memory can go back, the youngest memory I have, my oldest memory I have from that moment to that particular moment when I was, starting my journey. And I start healing, I start remembering everything, crying, forgiving, and forgiving myself, forgiving others, understanding the things I went through, why they happen like they happen, and what positive things I can extract from it, from every experience, right? And it was a long process. I mean, I'm 46, right? So you can imagine how much I have endured and experienced since I remember, right? And during all this phase, when I broke up with my ex-fiance, because everything that I learned, right? He was a cheater. And all the magic and all the things that were happening too. But also I find out that he was working with my ex somehow, my ex-husband and my daughter, and because they all decide that I was wrong, that I was doing wrong, just because I divorced from one and then I decided to separate from the other one, my other kid, and they both thought that I was wrong, because I didn't stay to accept all the breadcrumbs, because I didn't stay to accept that they were cheating on me, right? And mocking me and doing all this stuff behind my back, talking shit behind my back, and making up stuff behind my back, just because they couldn't forget or forgive past mistakes, always bringing back the past, always bringing them back the past, even though I haven't said everything that they did to me. And it's a lot of stuff that they did to me, physically, emotionally, and mentally abusive. They both were this way, these two men. Instead of defend myself and just talk about what they did to me and all these things, I try to be by myself. I remove myself and I start healing, right? Because when I decide to do all these things, my brother died and then my father died, right? So you can imagine all the things that I was going through, all this pain that I was going through, right? then putting all these swords on my back, and then losing, you know, important people in my life. So I decide to cope with my grief, my grieving, and going to my journey, my healing journey, my self-love journey on my own, by myself. And what I decided to do was to move in silence and not let nobody knows what I was doing, because first of all, it's nobody business. It is not nobody business. I don't owe nothing to nobody, right? Remember, I don't have a husband, I don't have a father, I have nobody to report to or telling my business, right? I'm a mature woman, independent woman that has been independent since I am 16 years old, when I started working back in Mexico, right? Always been independent, always being my own person, always doing my own stuff and taking my own decisions, right? And even though when I was married, I was always an independent woman. I barely rely on others. Most of the time, people rely on me in my advices, in how I think, in things like that. Even though when they cannot or will not accept it, most of the people around me rely more on me than me on them, including economically, financially, right? Even though they're gonna say no. The truth is, when I was with these men, I help and support both of them financially, right? And with their dreams or the things that they wanna go. If they wanna, be in a band, be a musician, I always support him. Tattoo artists, I always support them. Like I support my kids and guide my kids to go for their dreams and pick the careers that actually, match with their dreams and their talents and gifts. I never close the doors to nobody or force nobody to not follow their own dreams. I always been supportive. I don't care what they say. That is the truth, and they know the truth. So me as an independent woman, and now divorced and single and all this, and going through all these things, I knew that I had no obligation to tell nobody my business, right? When I broke up with my ex-fiance, after a little while, my older daughter decided to move out, right? So she moved out, was perfectly fine, right? But the reason or the way they did this stuff was to let me struggling financially. They do it on purpose, because it was like 3 incomes in the house, right? So I bought a house and we 3 were, paying for everything, the rent, the bills, food, whatever. It was an agreement that we 3 have, including my older daughter, right? She, after all that, she started speaking that she was taking care of me and all that is lies, but it's okay. She can say whatever she wants. That is how it was. We agreed to split. I take care of this, you take care of that, and you take care of that, and we 3 was working, so it was fair, right? More if you have a child that is old enough and works, right? The less that you expect is that it support you somehow, right? After you've been supporting your kid and giving everything to your kid until that time, right? Because I was the one that support my kid all the time. I was the one that buy stuff for her all the time. So I didn't feel like, she owed me anything, but I did feel like if she can support me, for everybody's good, it was fair, right? So that is how it was, until I find out the spiritual stuff that they were doing, and other stuff behind my back that they were doing, right? Like cheating and all that things. I broke up with my ex-fiance, and then my daughter decided to walk away after a year or so, saying that I was, basically to blame for her financial struggle, because she had to give me everything and I wasn't doing anything. Was not right, but it's okay. She can say whatever she wants again. God knows the truth no matter what she says. God knows the truth, and that's all that matters. So after all this shit, and because I was going through depression and grieving, right? And I was alone because everybody left me alone, turned their backs on me, everybody, with bills and everything. And I couldn't and want go to work because I was grieving. I want to remind everybody I was grieving. I lost my father, I lost my brother, and I lost the man that I thought he was the love of my life, because he was a cheater. He was fake, he was a liar, manipulator, narcissistic person, you know? And I mean, it is what it is, right? Just like I am accountable of who I was before, you know? I think everybody has to accept who they are too, okay? So after all these things, I decided to sell my home and take like a whole year, how you say, sabbatic year of no working and trying not to worry about anything but to heal myself and spend quality time with my little kids, right? Because I have 4. So my little kids, back then it was 10 years old and 4. That's all that I wanted. Take care of my kids and grieve, you know, have time for myself to heal my breakup and the deaths of my father and my brother. I didn't say nothing to nobody because, again, it's nobody's business. So I lived for a whole year with that money that I got from my taxes and from whatever I got from selling my home. I paid a whole year in advance of the rent of my home because I was allowed to rent my home after I sell it. And whatever I get, you know, extra, and whatever the child support that my ex-husband was giving me, with all that money I was surviving, let's say, for a whole year. There was a time where I got food stamps too, like for about 3 months or something like that, only because I wasn't working, right? And since nobody really was able or want to check on me, you know, because every time that they say they check on me, they were just judging, they were just criticizing, they were just trying to govern my life and telling me what to do or how I should react, what I'm supposed to do, you know. My kids were expecting me to react like they thought I should react, and that was their first mistake, because you cannot tell somebody how they should react, you know, before a loss, a breakup, and all these things. You cannot tell nobody how they should react, right? But they try to, though, and that's why I keep removing myself more and more and more from all these people, because I noticed that they came with supposedly trying to help me and talk to me and all these things, but in reality what they were doing was just judging me and pushing me to do stuff that I didn't want to do, because I wasn't ready to do, right? I want to heal, right? I want to go to my journey. I want to not worry about anything but to heal myself, because I have still 2 kids, young kids, right, that need me the most. And I didn't want to just, you know, move from one thing to another and keep working while repressing all the pain that I was going through here, all the disappointment too, because I found out about a lot of betrayal, cheating, you know, backstabbing, you know, attempts of murder, and a lot of stuff that they deny, and they will deny all their fucking life. But the proof are there. If somebody want really go through and check that everything I say is true, you're gonna find it. There's a lot of truth, you know, between the messages that they text each other, the call they text each other, the GPS tracking, how they are all together where they're not supposed to be, because, like, what the fuck? Your ex-husband talking with your ex and being friends? there is a hidden agenda there, but whatever. So I took a whole year. Unfortunately, by the time the money ran out, I couldn't find job. Then I decided to do other stuff, and then I started having problems with the house. The server, broke down, and I was like a whole month asking for the owner of the house to fix it. They never fixed it, to the point that I couldn't live in the home. So I couldn't pay, and I couldn't live in the home neither. So I just moved out, right? And when they started attacking me, saying that I was neglectful, that I was a broke ass, I was a lazy motherfucker, and all these things because I wasn't working. And then they start saying that I was only fans, that I was doing some shit, that I was partying and an addict, fucking everybody and having parties and all these things. I was healing, okay? I was going to my journey, to my awakening, to my grieving, okay? I was trying to pick up myself, the pieces of myself, to be a whole being again. That's what I was doing all this time. And they were saying other stuff about me, okay? And what happened? I didn't come over here and say, no, that's not true. No, I'm doing this, because it's nobody's business. It's a personal journey, right? And at the end, the people that talk shit about you, the things that they do against you, always come to light. Always. The truth always gonna come to light no matter what. Always. Sooner or later, all the things that you do is gonna come back to you. Good or bad. There's no escape from it. No matter what you think, there's no escape from it. Every time you do something, you're gonna get consequences back, good or bad. And it is what it is. So I trust God, I trust the process, I trust my team, that what I was doing was the right thing to do for myself, because at that time I didn't care about nobody else. Shit, nobody cared about me. Nobody even fucking understand the process. No, instead of forgiving and doing these things, they attack me. They cause me more pain. They try to get me, all these people against me, trying to get me in poverty, with no home, with no job, with no car, with no this, and then take all my kids away from me and turning against me to end my life, psychologically and emotionally speaking. They attack everything just to destroy me as a person. And what I did was isolate myself to get the strength from God to get up from all that and pass through all the things that they throw at me. That's what I did. In silence. With God. And God taught me about forgiveness. And I learned that forgiveness is the most important thing for the healing process. It's part of the healing process. It's a process, and it takes too much time sometimes. You don't have to forgive and just, walk away. No, it's a process. You have to feel it. You have to understand it. You have to embrace it. And you have to release it. And once you release the forgiveness, you understand that it's for you. You not forgive for them. You forgive them for you. You understand? It's not them. It's you. Your peace of mind, right? To release any karma, from having hateful feelings for others, for feeling revenge, trying to get revenge or holding grudges and all these things. You free yourself from all these emotions that a betrayal cause, a disappointment, right? A suffering from others cause, bad experiences, right? Abuse and all these things that other people do to you. Don't ever think that you forgive them is giving them something to them. You're not giving them nothing. The forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. You have to forgive yourself for feeling how you feel first, right? Because we have to give grace to people. Everybody has their own journey and their own reality and their own path. And it is what it is. They choose the reality. They choose to be a victim, or they choose to be an enemy, or they choose to betray you, or they choose to walk away, or they choose to just leave you alone, or they choose to help you grow. It's their choice. It has nothing to do with you. So you forgive because you want to free yourself from all these emotions that is killing you, that is making you become bitter, right? That is not letting you advance, right? That is not letting you grow. It's a process. It's a process, and it's for you, for your highest good. It's never for them. And it's very important to understand this. And that's why God asked me to talk about these things, because the healing process, it starts with forgiveness. Forgiveness to yourself for feeling how you feel, for feeling guilt, for feeling abandoned, for feeling sad, for feeling revengeful, for feeling hateful towards the people that hurt you, or for not having the ability to forgive when you should have forgiven in the past, right? Because like me, I was abused, right, when I was young, and I never speak about it. I was always holding this pain and this grudge and this kind of hate inside of me until I was like 39, 40 years old, when I finally released this person that hurt me, right? And I forgive him because I understood that the forgiving was for me. I forgive myself for keeping me trapped for 40 years or 30 years or whatever years, keeping the same loop of feeling like a victim. I forgive myself for all this time wasted, that in reality wasn't wasted. It was needed, right? Everybody has their own process. So it was needed for me to reach the point where I can actually forgive myself and forgive the person that hurt me and move on, release and move on. And when I did it, it was like a lot of weight, was lifted from my shoulders, because I was no bitter no more, right? Because from the bottom of my heart, I really forgive, because I understood that was for me to be free from all these emotions that were caused by the action of this person, right? And it's the things that is in the Matrix. The Matrix have us going through a lot of stuff to play with our minds and our hearts, to keep us like victims, to keep us hateful, to keep us, with this cloud above our heads, always depressed, always sad, always mad, always, fighting with ourselves, because we are really fighting with ourselves. We complain about the things that happen to us, but we are fighting with ourselves. Instead of, find the positive thing in everything and come out from everything, we just go down. We just, repress a lot of stuff and just keep it in our hearts. And then our hearts start being hard and close off to everything. And then our abundance, our blessings, all that start, and being blocked as well. Because we are unable to forgive. We are unable to heal our own heart and forgive ourselves as well. So as I was in this taxi, we were talking, me and this driver, I was telling him like, yeah, I was doing all this, I was healing, I was all this, and these people been saying that I am doing this, I am doing that. And I remember the man saying, you should say, yes, I'm doing OnlyFans, just to let them talk. And I was like, well, I just decided to not say anything, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. I only worry about who I am, what I do, and that my kids see me from who I am, and God, what God thinks, what God thinks. Everything else, I don't care. So I never feel like I need to come over here and excuse myself or explain myself on. No, I just keep moving. I just keep healing. Sometimes I came here when I feel guided to, and I speak my truth and tell people, give people warnings, because I don't give warnings because I feel like I am the shit. I give warnings because I don't want people going through stuff that I know they will go through if they don't change their path. Because I can see what is coming for them. And in the past, at some point, these people were important to me, right? So I give warnings because I can see what you're doing to yourself. But they took it the wrong way. They attacked me even harder, right? Because whatever I am bothers them so much, right? Because I mirror the things that they cannot do, but they know they have to do, like healing, forgiving, right? Growing, evolving, keeping in their own line. All these things that everybody's supposed to do and they don't do, they feel some kind of way because I am doing it, right? Then it's no matching with the things that they talk about me. So they get even more mad, right? And they attack harder. So it looks like whatever they saying is the truth, right? They went too far to go even, court cases and speak and lies and bring, false witnesses and pay for a lot of people to stalk me, to do a lot of spiritual shit, warfare on me, to speak about things that people don't even know me. And just because somebody comes and says, yeah, say this and say that, and she's this and she's that, they just replicate what they hear without even investigating who I am for real, right? So as all these 2 years passed and all this growing and all these things that I've been going through, I was in my process of healing, forgiving, grieving, and becoming strong and strong physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, in all ways, with God's help, right? And the thing that helped me the most through all these things was forgiveness. Without the forgiveness, I wouldn't be free. My spirit wouldn't be free. I wouldn't be still. I would be still, bitter, like tyrant, toxic, closed off, stubborn, and being people pleaser, victim, with the victim mentality, and it's still, probably will be with these people, right? But the fact that I could, wake up and see through them, it was when I decided to walk away, because God showed me their spirits. God showed me their truth. God showed me who they were and what they were doing from the beginning. It was just a process to accept it, because it hurts. It's people that you used to love. It's people that you never thought will turn against you out of a past mistake, out of a past stuff, right? But like I say, everybody grows, evolve, and heal at their own pace when they decide to. Because first of all, you have to decide to. Nobody's going to force you to heal. If you don't want to heal, you will not heal. If you don't want to forgive, you cannot, right? If you don't want to evolve and all these things, you will stay in the same mentality, in the same toxicity, in the matrix, basically, right? So it's everybody's decision. But the most important thing to understand here is forgiveness. Forgiveness, we don't forgive because we're making something up to them. We're not helping them in anything. The forgiveness is never for them, okay? The forgiveness is for you to be free. To be free and to be at peace with yourself and the divine, right? From your heart. Forgive yourself for thinking, for doing, for everything, right? Even for being the victim, for being your own victim. Forgive yourself. And then when you are able to forgive yourself, you're going to be able to forgive others, because now you're going to understand their point of view, even though they're still wrong, right? But you understand why they react, why they are working from their emotions. Is because they are unhealed, just like you was in the past, right? It's the same thing. Nobody is better than nobody. The only difference here is when is the time when you decide to grow and awake. Your timeline jump, right? Your reality starts switching, right? But when you are in the same toxicity like them, we are all in the same low vibrational reality, right? Until you say, okay, this loop of bitterness, of hateful, revenge, grudges, and all these things is enough for me. I cannot do this no more. I had to forgive so I can move on and switch my timeline, right? Because being bitter and being in this mentality of no forgiveness is affecting me, not them. It's affecting me, how I feel, how I behave, how I work, with others, how my life is going down, it affects me. So the first thing that you need, the first step for healing is forgiveness, but with the mentality that is for you. You are forgiven for yourself, to free yourself, okay, to heal yourself, and then you can forgive others. And then when you forgive others, you can move on in peace, knowing that no matter what they do, you understand it's them, it's their life, it's their decision. You just keep moving and moving and moving with the trust in God. And as you move with the trust in God and clean from all karma, because you forgive, so you don't have no more karma, because you understand, you give them grace, right? God is protecting you. God keeps blessing you, and you keep moving forward. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what they try, they're gonna keep trying all they want until they can't, or until they decide to jump from that loop to another reality and mind their own business, basically, and heal themselves and work on their own path, right? Only the people that decide to take the lead of their own life can move on, right? While you're still preoccupied about what others do, what others say, what others have, right, or no, or don't have, or whatever, you're not living your life. You're living through them lives. You're envious, you're jealous, you're mad, you're trying to take from them, you're trying to attack them, you try to make them suffer just because you think you can, because you think you have the power, because you think you have the authority to do so, right? You're not living your life. You're living and giving your energy to other person. If the other person is awake, you just getting or building karma, right, for yourself. But it's gonna be coming back to you. When the people is asleep, this can come back to you or not, depending on the person to regain, their sovereignty. You will keep attacking and steal from them and have this energy and all that shit. But you're probably not gonna see nothing because they are asleep, right? But when the person awake and know what is going on and decide to just move away and move away from you, no matter what you do, all the stuff is gonna come back to you faster. Every time it's gonna be faster and faster because the other person has regained their sovereignty, has regained the power, right? So I want you to understand that no matter what you do, it's always gonna be back to you. If you heal, if you go to your journey, self-love and all these things, everything is gonna come back to you. The love that you give, the work that you do, the good deeds, everything is gonna come back to you. But if you don't want to heal, if you wanna keep attacking others and judging others and feeling that you have the power, the authority, or the right, because whatever they did to you in the past or whatever, you're not living your life. You're actually going down, and it's gonna take a whole time for you to notice that you actually is in the trap. You are like, the mouse in the wheel. You are the rat in the wheel, right? Because you keep thinking and making more and more reasons and justifications to attack a person, and more ideas to how to attack them, because oh my God, they did this to me, or because I think they should do this, or because I think they should be under me, or I am more powerful, or I am who decides your life. It's stupid. You just lying to yourself. You're in this wheel like a rat, in this loop, right? Cage. Your cage. You are your own slave. You are your own victim, because everything that we do comes back to us sooner or later. If you want to be all these things, just remember that all that is gonna come back to you, because you are unhealed. You don't want to work on yourself. You having all the warnings, and you're still doing it, right? And the people that is willing to work on themselves, willing to forgive, willing to evolve and grow, they have better lives, even though you keep attacking them. They are at peace with themselves, at peace with life, at peace with God, with the divine, and with everything around them. And you cannot check them from there ever again. So my message is, forgiveness is very important to the healing process. If you try to heal, but you find difficult to heal, think, sit, analyze, check yourself, and ask yourself, did I need to forgive myself from something? Do I need to forgive myself from something? Do I need to forgive others? Maybe I need to start from forgiveness so I can move actually on this process of healing. Because if you haven't been able to forgive yourself or others, you will stay stuck trying to heal but not healing, because you still have a closed heart. You understand? And when your heart is closed, you cannot attract good things to yourself. You cannot attract love. You cannot attract genuine friendship, genuine love. You cannot attract a good, stable job. You cannot attract a stable life, a stable marriage, a stable relationship. You cannot attract not even a stable sleep. You cannot rest, because it's so much going on here, that you are repressing, that you are holding, thinking that the other person deserves all that because all that you feel here. But in reality, all this is affecting you. You understand? It's taking you down to make you think that you shouldn't be doing, to make you think that you may be regretting soon or later. So you cannot really heal if you are not able to forgive whoever hurt you, including yourself, for thinking in a way, for behaving in a way, for seeing yourself as a victim, for seeing yourself as a less person, for belittling yourself, for agreeing with everybody that you are this or that, instead of fight for you, for your own rights, for who you really are, right? So, yeah, forgiveness is the first step for the healing process, and is the most important thing to gain access to the spiritual realm and the blessings. In the process of healing, on the process of awakening, as you go and advance, you unlock a lot of stuff. And one of the things that you unlock is having your spiritual team. They start joining you as you evolve, grow, heal, and awake. You start getting your ancestors and your spiritual team with you. That's why some people cannot listen to their teams, because they're not willing to go to the process. They're not willing to take the high road, right? They're not willing to do these things because it's more comfortable to stay in the matrix. It's more comfortable to be toxic, right? To be a victim, right? to complain, right? To justify what you went through with your behavior, right? Even though it's a lot of time that has passed, even though you have a lot of opportunity to grow, right? To heal, you're still in the mentality like, they did this to me, I'm not gonna let it go, you know? Like, why you not letting go? You're not seeing that what you're not letting go is actually affecting you. It's not affecting me, it's affecting you. And it will always affect you until you leave, free yourself from it, from the own cage that you put yourself in, that is unforgiveness, right? Holding grudges, right? Thinking that you have the right, just because somebody did something to you, you have the right to take their life. You have the right to fuck their life. You have the right to block their life. You have the right to block the money, to block their love life, to block the health, to block everything. And that's not true. That's not true. That's one of the biggest illusions in this matrix. To think that people owe you just because they did something to you. Nobody owes you nothing. Everything is an experience in this life. And we decide how it's going to affect us, for good or for bad. We decide what we're going to do with the experience. Okay? So I hope this helped you. I hope this help the people that is being against me as well, to take the decision to finally let go, release, and keep in their own line before their lives go more down, right? I say it with all my love for your highest good and the highest good of myself, of course, because even though all the things that they did to me, I wish nothing but the best. I wish nothing but healing for all of you, so you guys can move on and understand that what you guys are doing, you're not doing nothing to me. Even though it looks like you don't. In reality, you are digging more and more and more, you know, the hole. And when you fall in that hole, it's gonna be impossible for you to come out if you don't stop. And this is for everybody, even the people that is being victim. Forgive, free yourself from these emotions that doesn't serve you. Transmute it into something positive. Grow from it. Jump timeline. Change your reality and decide how you want to live consciously for the best. Okay? God bless you and thank you for watching me. I hope you like this message. I love you all.